That's mate. That's not Jabo. That's not Jabo. That's not Jabo. One more to let Lord himself. That's not Jabo. One to Jabo. That's not Jabo. One more Jabo, Lord. That's not Jabo. One to okay. That's not Jabo. That's not Jabo.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello, people, and welcome to Footy Judge Mo. Welcome to another stream. Listen, Arsenal have completely fumbled. Arsenal have completely changed everything about their season. We are stunned. Everyone is stunned. Everyone is stunned about yesterday. Everyone is stunned about how Arsenal lost the game, how Kai Havertz played football. I'm just going to say this. Chelsea fans told you so.
Everyone.
Chelsea fans told you so. Chelsea fans told you so. Just for the people that think Rory is hiding, Rory just couldn't make it. He literally just got back from his trip to Norway. If you aren't following Rory on Instagram, he's done a lot of vlogs. He's chasing whales, of course, because of course, they cannot chase cups. They cannot chase leagues. So that's what they can chase. So Rory couldn't make it. Nobbins apologized. He couldn't make it today. But we got Olo here, who's very rational as well. Tom to cook Arsenal. Dan to speak about Viega, of course. But listen, Rory.
Mo, before we get started, I just need to ask a question. So, good weekend of football this weekend. Did Inter Milan win this weekend?
We did. Venezia.
Good. That's good. Dan, did Chelsea? I know Chelsea had an FA Cup tie at home. Can be a bit dodgy. Did you win this weekend?
Yep. 5-0 victory.
5-0. That's great. I mean, we won this weekend. We won 4-0. Yeah.
Nice.
I know Nobbins isn't here, but I can do Nobbins apart. They won 8-0. 8-0. Really good. Olu, how did your club get on the FA Cup this weekend, mate?
Je n'ai pas anglais.
Third round must have been all right. It must have been a
it's third round, isn't it? If you don't get to the third round, you really even there.
Je n'ai pas anglais.
See, if I was like smart, I'd speak it in French, but I can't, and I can't really get in Google Translate up. So,
Espanol. See.
Yeah, hola. That's about the extent of it. I know. I just need to know how Arsenal got on. I didn't really watch much of the football this weekend, so I'm just
all I'm saying is you guys have got a fourth round game. We've got a game against the under-23s. Okay, so relax. We've still got a game scheduled. We've got.
Yeah, and I'm sure Mikel Arteta will shit himself against the under-23s and play defensive again because he can't go forward, can he? So I take that as an Arsenal loss. I mean, it's actually quite incredible that Tottenham Hotspur got taken to extra time by a team called Tamworth and still weren't the most embarrassing team of the weekend. It's truly quite incredible. Like I'd never heard of Tamworth before. And yet,
it's where Spudman hails from, Tom.
That's the extent of Tamworth, Spudman. The most exciting part about that game was the fact there was a snow dome in the background.
It said, yeah, I agree, actually. I actually really wondered what that was, all their free advertising. But they've got 2 stars above their badge, and someone put on Twitter that that's their food hygiene rating.
And yet they still weren't the most embarrassing one because Arsenal at home against a Man United team who had the same amount of injuries as Arsenal. Let's get that clear. Against 10 men. Now, what the 10 men part's important because if mighty Mikel Arteta would have you believe something this year, it's that you cannot win a game if you have 10 men.
Sorry, can I pause you there before you continue? Actually, we had 10 men as well. Because Mikel Merino was on the pitch and he made only 6 passes in the first half. So I consider that we were playing with 10 men.
You had the ref, though.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Okay.
That's back to 11.
11 v 10. Okay, I'll take that.
And
Like-
what Havertz does Havertz count?
That's half a person, so 10.5. 10.5.
Does anybody play
it's
well
so
from
more-
Arsenal yesterday? I'm being serious. Guys, before we go on, get the likes up to 100 people. Hit that like button on the channel. Subscribe if you're new. If you're watching this on the replay, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe first. Let's get the likes up to 100 people. Starting slow, but let's get the likes to 100. Hit that like button, people, underneath your live chat quickly. Who played well yesterday?
I'd say so. Lewis Skelly probably played well.
Yes?
The Timber played well.
No.
I thought he's played well. I don't
Andy
think so.
Madley. Andy Madley done brilliantly for Arsenal.
I
He
thought-
tried his hardest in that game and just, certain players let him down.
Do you know who
thought-
I actually thought looked sharp when he come on was Sterling.
Sterling,
And then
yeah.
it just disappeared. It just went back to
Wait,
what we've seen.
I got a theme here. So Gabriel played pretty well as well. I mean, he made a mistake, but played pretty well. Sliby was okay, and that's about it, to be honest. So I'll say out of all the team, our defense played okay. How about that? That's how bad it was.
I mean, can we also talk about David Raya's attempts to save penalties?
We'll get to that. Let's
Because they were truly
Guys,
exceptional.
guys, let's not just throw all our, everything all at once. Let's slowly get to it. We'll get to Raya when we get to the penalty talk. But yeah, I'll say those guys played better, and that just tells you how, as an attacking threat, we have regressed so badly. And I'll put this, okay, if you look at objectively, you look at quote unquote the stats and so on and so forth, actually from a chance creation, even though a lot of the chances were just spamming crosses into the box, right? But from a chance creation, you say actually on paper that looks like a pretty good performance, but we've got eyes and we saw what we saw. And the fact that if you take 2 years ago, Arsenal could create a goal going through the middle, through passing, to this year where literally majority of our chances come from us crossing the ball in, that is quite scary. So there is a regression. The attacking just looks a bit toothless right now, blunt, to be honest. And I think it's frustrating. It is absolutely frustrating. We got a pen that shouldn't have been a pen, and we missed a pen. Rice decided that the only place to head the ball is directly at the goalkeeper. I mean, Bayern made a save that looked great for the cameras, but I used to play in goal. I'd have caught that because it was just right in the middle of the goal. And of course, Kai Havertz decided that he wanted to be a donkey and show that he's got.
I wanted to have a.
No, well, let me finish. He's got. I've always said this about Kai.
You're giving excuses.
No, good movements, and he's got zero killer instinct. Zero killer instinct, and yesterday just proved it perfectly.
That is typically what happens when you play attacking midfielder up front in tight games. They don't turn up in the big moments. I mean, if we are being entirely honest with Arsenal yesterday, I know they had like a 3-point-something XG. Whoa. But the chances that they created, bar the one for Havertz, which he hit over the bar from 3 yards out, I don't think Arsenal created many clear-cut chances. I just think that they...
No, the Rice one was clear-cut. He was in front.
That header as well. Sorry, I thought that was Kai Havertz for a second. No, so the Rice header and the Havertz miss from half a yard out. Those were two big chances created across 120 minutes. Why can I say that Man United created about the same? Like that points to a deeper rooted problem.
I want to be objective today about a couple of points. We talk about the game and how Amorim set his team up very well. However, Arsenal created chances. But Arsenal lack personalities. We're going to talk about it. Arsenal lack that killer instinct that everyone has been screaming for 2 years that Arsenal should go and get in the market. You chased Cisco, you chased Gyökeres, you didn't get Gyökeres, you chased this, you chased that. But it's Mikel Arteta's fault, or it's the player's fault. And I want to hear rivals' opinions. Tom and Dan. I want to start with Dan. A lot of people said yesterday, and I'm really going to talk about this, and I want the people in the chat to let me know. This is a dilemma. This is a conflict. This is a difference in opinion. Mikel Arteta, if you want to be objective, if you watch the stats yesterday, set up his team. How many XG, Tom? How many chances they created? How many XG? 3 point something?
3.8 3.8, I think it was.
If your manager set up your team to have a 3.8 xG in a game and your players don't perform and don't put the ball in the back of the net, would you blame the manager in this particular game in isolation, or would you blame the players? These are the same players that scored 90 plus goals last season. 90 plus. They were the second best attack in the league. Would you blame the manager? And I want to hear opinions. I'm here. This is not my opinion. I'm just asking the question that everyone is asking. Who's to blame? Because someone has to be blamed.
Well, I think for the individual moments in that game, I think you have to look at the players, because Arteta's not on the pitch. You can't put the ball in the back of the net. But I think the blame can lie with Arteta for the fact that he's been involved in recruiting some of those players. I think the blame can lie on Arteta for the fact he's relying on players that are consistently injured and they're never reliable, and you don't know when that injury is going to come. And I think the blame can lie on Arteta for sometimes not making the right choices to create the sort of, not toxicity around the fan base, but the expectations have sort of been really raised really high. And then this season, I don't think he's been able to sort of maintain it. And I think we're starting to see the wheels come off a little bit. And I think that's why the reaction to yesterday is so bad. So I think they have to share it, but in isolation for chances where someone has to put the ball in the back of the net, it comes down to the players, I think.
Tom.
It's a case of you've got to look at both parties. Yes, the players didn't take the chances, but the manager's the one who wanted the players, and the manager's the one who's worked with these players for in at least a year in everyone's case, in some cases a bit longer, for them to still be having these issues in front of goal. Because I'm not talking about these were simple chances. These were chances that you should be burying, and they were missing them, and it was constant throughout the game. And that, to me, yes, the players simply aren't good enough in that aspect, but also the manager has to recognise that and either work on it or become a bit ruthless and get rid, because this has not just all of a sudden become a problem for Arsenal. This has been a problem for Arsenal. It's just now, without Bukayo Saka and his brilliance to bail him out, you get dragged into more of these games where you don't get that goal that you need. You don't get that situation that you need, etc., etc. So it's a really weird situation for Arsenal to be in right now, because I think this season as a whole is mainly on Arteta, because I think he's regressed too much from what worked. He's panicked too much. He's went into his shell with Arsenal and stopped and wanted to just not lose rather than win. And if that is your mentality as a team, when it comes to having to go on attack and having to go out and put it on the players and put it on the opposition, if these players are prepared and to defend and prepared and to be a bit negative all week, it becomes a bit harder to then come out of your shell and do that. So I feel like Arteta needs to get the balance back in the team. Players need to improve in front of goal, but I don't think that these players are ever going to become the clinical finishers that Arsenal need. I don't think Kai Havertz is ever going to become that. I don't think Trossard's ever going to become that. Well, Trossard can't. He's too old already. I think Martinelli will ever become that.
You guys call Kai Havertz failed signing already?
Hmm?
Is Kai Havertz failed signing already? He was the guy, as Turkish said, that was supposed to be the next guy for them to take them over the line.
I think they got the idea of that signing completely wrong. Maybe if they wanted him to be the main man, it's a failed signing, because I don't think Kai Havertz can ever be that. But I think as a player, I actually don't think he's finished at Arsenal.
Yeah.
What is going to be his role? I actually don't see any rule for him if they get a striker. Then
that's the issue, isn't it? I think if you look at Havertz, it's so difficult to find a role for him in these modern day systematic robotic systems. I actually don't think Kai Havertz has a specific role in them. I think Kai Havertz would have blended in better in the days of where there was room for a second striker or two up top. I actually think you'd actually get something out of him, but I don't see if Arteta's system's ever going to allow that. I don't think he's a backup striker either. I just don't think Kai Havertz is an out-and-out 9.
I think personally, and if you listen to Arteta, he talks about havertz being flexible, a player that he can play all over the place, right? So you need to plug a gap. You sort of fit him there, and it's kind of weird because we say this, and you look at he plays for Arsenal. Germany still put him as the starting player for them in the lineup. So these managers are seeing something that doesn't translate onto the pitch when Havertz is off form. I think the biggest problem Havertz has right now is that I think if he had the same environment he had last year, where you had like a Saka who's on fire, you have on the left hand doing a decent job. I mean, funny enough, as much as I dislike him, Trossard did a decent job last year. I think actually the onus becomes less about him and what his strengths are on the pitch. Like, he doesn't become the primary focus because you've got the other guys firing. I think now where he's now has to be the guy leading the line, you start to see the deficiencies. That the same thing that happened at Chelsea. You know, when she went into the bad spell, and he became the guy, right, dig us out of this hole. I don't think he has that personality as a player to be that person. But when you have everything else firing around him, he's the guy that will get you a scrappy goal when needed. It's the guy who, you know, score every now and then. You know, move into the box will be good. I think right now
Is he a big moments player?
No.
Yeah, he scored in the Champions League final.
I don't know.
No, I mean, like, for how many big moments, how many big games has he won for Arsenal? Because I think like he had a late goal against Brentford.
Yes, there's one a few. He had one against Brentford, the header. He had another one I think it was Brentford. He has scored a few. I think there's one this season he scored like in the last minute. I mean, against Everton last year, I know we didn't win the league, but he scored the goal. Even though it was Odegaard who went through. But so I think he can score those things. I just think that now, when the onus is on him to lead the line, I don't think he has the personality to be a ruthless killer, right? And that's what you want when you have someone who's essentially now the man. If he's part of the team, I think it's perfectly fine. If he's the man, you run into a problem.
I just think Kai Havertz he's not. Arsenal need a guy up front who thrives off pressure and who lives for the big moments. And I don't think Kai Havertz is that. I don't think Kai Havertz likes the pressure. I don't think Kai Havertz likes the situations that he gets put in as Arsenal's number 9. And I don't think he was signed to be the number 9. Because Arteta really wants him to be that left ace. But he doesn't work there. So it's been a case of just trying to put him where it works. And you know,
so he put him as a left 8, didn't work based on what you said. He put him on the left 8, didn't work. Put him as a striker, didn't work. So he's
worked as a striker, but he's not worked to win Arsenal League as a striker, because you can't have a striker who doesn't turn up in big moments. You can't have a striker who doesn't make these big games every team that has won a league title has a striker that in a big moment against a top team wins that game. Gets man of the match in that game. And Havertz isn't that, and Arsenal don't have that guy in their team. And then you run into problems like you do yesterday, where when the pressure's on in a knockout competition against a top team, he wilts and he folds, and he shits the bed basically, and that's the problem that Kai Havertz has, and I don't think that's ever going to change.
Another player that I wanted to before we move, I want to move on from Kai. Another player is Martin Odegaard.
I just want to say something very quickly before we go. It'll be interesting to know if, based on the signings that we eventually make at some point, if Arteta moves away from his principle of having players who essentially.
I can't believe you're still talking about Arteta being in a project again and then giving money again and trying again, to be honest.
Everything's a project. Even if you bring in a new manager, it's always going to be a project. Even when Slot came,
it's not a project.
It is. When I say it's a project, I'm talking about look, I work in a business. I know that everything you do is a project. Like, you can't get away from it. I think we branded this project as a banter thing, but the reality is that every manager is working on a project. Even Pep, when he's won 4 in a row, he's still working on projects. The point I'm trying to make is that he's got a philosophy that, from what I've heard, that he believes in players who are flexible wherever on the pitch. It'll be interesting to know, because I've always said that his philosophy doesn't work for a singular striker, right? And that's why someone like Nketiah, who was absolutely terrible, don't get me wrong, wouldn't work at Arsenal because you need players who can drop back and be flexible around the pitch. It'll be interesting that if he was to stay on, right, would he go for a typical striker, someone who doesn't get involved in play, similar to what Pep did with Haaland, or if he's still going to go for these sort of players who are drop back, get involved in play, don't necessarily have to get 25, 30 goals, but be part of building up play. I think that's where I'll be interested to know if he's going to change philosophy or if he's going to be super hard-headed and still go for the likes of the Kai Havertz or the Jesus of the worlds.
He's always get these guys. By the way, even Sesko, for the people that don't know, Sesko is a striker. He's not starting week in, week out, if I'm not mistaken. He's not the guy to take you over the line. I don't know why Arsenal are so shy of buying that guy up top, the Osimhens, the Gyökeres. Why? Why are Arsenal so shy of buying someone like that?
I think it's finance.
No, but then I will push back on this by saying they already had the 50 million for Sesko. He's the one who chose to stay. They already wanted Sesko. They agreed to pay the money for Sesko. So the money is there. The money is there from the summer. And they could have gone for someone else.
But did he not sign a new contract?
Yeah, he didn't want to leave.
He rejected them. That wasn't for the want of trying. But I don't think the finances allow him to go and push for the level above Sesko.
So
it might also be a case of Arsenal's recruitment strategy is we have a certain type of target that we want. If that target isn't available, we're not going to go and spend on another guy because we're not going to get rid of that other guy in time. They're not like other top, and it's the same with us. We're not like other top teams who, if we go and buy someone and then after the year they're not working, we just sell them and then go again. If they're not working, we end up trying to stick by them for 2 or 3 years in the hopes that we'll figure it out, and then you lose your target. So the best bet for Arsenal in that case, if they are running that strategy, is to not panic and go for a third or fourth choice option. It's to wait until the top guy comes available. The problem is you cannot do that every single time, especially when you've got problem positions. And I think that striking position for Arsenal is becoming a problem position.
Yeah, and also to add to that, from what I've read, what I've sort of heard, that I say heard, I mean not directly from the club. I'm talking from like listening to YouTube videos and things. Is that the sort of strategy was to go for players who are malleable, right? People you can still to lack of a better term, control to what you want them to become, which is why they went for younger players, especially when we brought likes of Ben White and Ramsdale and so on and so forth. So I think, and this is why.
Do you know the explanation for this? You guys know the explanation for this?
It's going to have to be a change of philosophy from Arteta. And
yes. Thank you.
Just buying players.
I'm going to tell everyone in the chat what I think about this, and I want to hear the panel's opinion. Arteta doesn't like to get ready-made players. He likes to be the one taking the player to the next level, to have a favor on him, for the player to never revolt, for the player to never do something out of the ordinary. And I think that is a big problem. If you watch the Ben White, the Ramsdale, even the Raya from Brentford, Kai Havertz was a player that is failing already at Chelsea. Chelsea fans wanted him out for a couple of years. And he is the one who got him and then like, I'm going to revive your career. Odegaard is the same. I'm going to revive your career. You get my point? He's the one who built Gabriel as a defender. And I believe that 23 at the time. I believe that is a problem at Arsenal. Arteta need to accept that he can't always be the bigger guy at Arsenal. He's not Pep Guardiola. I said that yesterday. He's acting like he's Pep Guardiola. You need to be. Listen, I said it yesterday on Al-Ahwa. Mohamed Salah stood up for Jurgen Klopp. Yes, maybe people didn't like it, but that's a personality that is maybe bigger than Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool, or at least equal, or at least close. Arteta doesn't like that. And until, Habibi, why can't he get Osimhen? You know, I'm going to tell you why. And everyone in the chat that is saying, no, it's not true. You know why Arsenal fans said, we don't want Osimhen? He doesn't suit the team. He doesn't suit the team. He is someone who has an ego, blah, blah, blah. And that is a problem at Arsenal. Arsenal need to accept that sometimes you might get a guy with a big personality at your club. It's okay. It's all right. It's not going to hurt your team. He might be the guy to take you to the next level. And that is the problem. Every player at Arsenal is a player that Arteta built. Give me one name that came that is, oh my God, he's ready made a superstar. Give me one.
Declan Rice is the only one.
Yeah, Habibi, it's coming from West Ham.
Yeah, but he was 100 million though. He's ready to go.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean he
let me
wasn't.
ask you guys. Let me ask you. Okay, so let me ask you. I asked a question like I asked to every panelist yesterday.
Raheem Sterling.
If Arteta chose to sit Declan Rice on the bench, do you think Declan Rice will revolt? Will do what Salah did to Jurgen Klopp? Just ask yourself that.
No,
Yes.
he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't. Wait, sorry, what?
If you're saying that, are you saying for a one-off game, or are you saying that?
Not for a one, like for example, yeah.
If you're saying for an extended period of time, Arteta just bench Declan Rice, then yes, I think Declan Rice will get a bit angry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see him. I see Declan Rice as a good boy. Good boy.
No, I disagree.
I see Declan Rice as a very good boy. He might ask to leave. He might ask to go for a go out. But I believe that nobody at Arsenal is bigger than Arteta. Nobody at Arsenal can challenge Arteta. You all know that.
I agree. Now, let me see. So we know Arteta is a disciple of Pep, right? In terms of he's worked under him. And so there's going to be a lot of things that he'll take on in terms of how he's learned how Pep has dealt with people, managing situations and so on and so forth, right? And he'll have his own ways of doing things. But take your mind back to when Pep came in and managed Barcelona. He had Etu, Ronaldinho, Juli, all these players, right? And what did he do? He got rid of those players, right? Because he said, well, what I'm trying to build is bigger than you, right? So at the time when Ronaldinho was leaving, you'd have said, that's absolutely insane. Why are you getting rid of him? I'm not saying that Arsenal are the same as Barcelona. Then I'm not saying Arteta is the same thing as them. What I'm saying is that it doesn't surprise me that he will take some of those principles that Pep has shown and said has succeeded, and we'll try to use those. The problem is that it's fine when you succeed. If you're not succeeding, that's when it starts to become a glaring issue, right? And that's the problem right now. It's not succeeding. So you might have the best intentions. It might be the right thing to do. The problem is that the result of what you're doing isn't showing right now. And so you will be criticized for it.
I see your point, but I've been saying this for a bit, to be honest. Let me do Dial Square Super Chat saying, my theory is that Mikel Arteta envisioned Kai as a second striker, hence why he wanted Cisco in the summer. Ultimately, the board lacked ambition, 2 points off the league, and you end up with net profit 3.8 XG versus 0.33 XG is not a structural issue. Fair, but again, it's a project. You need to start winning games. We are looking at it's more details, guys. But these games, again, last season, the West Ham game, 5 clear-cut chances, and he didn't put the ball in the back of the net. And at the end, that cost you the league. These 2 points cost you the league. And that's what happens normally. I think he only wants people he can control fully. People change on this. But I see this as a problem at Arsenal.
I think all managers worth the salt want players they can control. No manager is going to say, bring me a problem person. I mean, yes, you might get an
No, it doesn't have to be a problem person.
But no, I'm just saying, though, that the reality is that if you're going to manage people, you're going to want people who are going to listen to you. And you're going to get rid of the people who don't want to listen to you. So I'm not saying that he's right. I'm just saying that you have to understand that as a manager, where you've got 24, 25 people, so on and so forth, right? What you want is people who are going to listen to your instructions and take your instructions on board. That's what made Klopp successful. That's what made Pep successful. That's what made Ferguson, who people consider the greatest English manager, successful. Mourinho, he was bigger personality than everyone else. The likes of Terry, Drogba, Lampard listened to him, right? When someone like, what's the name of the guy, Avram Grant came in and then listened to him, they said they were training themselves, they said. They weren't listening to him. So managers want people they can control. The problem, like I said, is if it doesn't show itself in results, you are going to be criticized for it.
What next? What next? Can I understand, Dan? What is next for Arsenal? What is next?
I mean, a very tough end to the season because I think tensions are as high as they've been. I think Arteta's this close to the banners coming back out. They'll be repainting them and drawing on Arteta out. Yeah, I actually don't know. I think Arteta is dancing with failure in the eyes of the fans, to be honest with you. I think that's what he's got to prevent happening. I think he has to go I mean, I don't know how he's going to win the Premier League. So he's probably got to make the Champions League his complete and utter main focus and beg that he can turn it around against Newcastle in the League Cup. Otherwise, he's in for a real difficult ride to the end of the season.
Is there a saving for him?
Arteta cannot go another season without a trophy. I think that position becomes untenable.
They aren't going to win a trophy. How are they going to win, Tom?
They have to beat Newcastle, or they
win.
They
can. Then most likely they won't. Let's just be honest.
I agree. The form Newcastle are in, very difficult to play against, especially, is it away?
Yeah, it's at St. James's Park. It's
very difficult. I mean, stranger things have happened. And I just think you don't have to always be the best team to go and win a Champions League. You just have to apply yourself in the correct way. But my worry would be that Arteta might not be pragmatic enough. And actually, I'm not sure the squad is going to have the depth, because I feel like they're losing players left, right, and centre at the moment. And that's a real concern for me. And actually, I think that means that whether they want to or not, they probably need to go and recruit 2 or 3 players in January.
Agreed. I'll say, so what this reminds me of is, actually, funny enough, this is going to sound weird, the Invincible season, right? And the reason why I say that is we lost the FA Cup semi-finals against United. We lost the Champions League quarterfinals against Chelsea, and the next game was Liverpool. And if we lost that game, essentially that league was going to, that season was going to go to shits. And Arsenal won that game 4-2, right? That's when we did that incredible run from the halfway line. Essentially, Arsenal need to replicate that. And the problem is that I don't think, as Dana said, we've lost players. So I don't think we have the quality of player right now, especially in the front line, to replicate that. I don't think the personalities are there. But I've said this before and I'll say this again, sorry. He's the second best paid manager in the league.
Oh, that too, by the way,
it's his job to figure out a solution. So the game on Wednesday, it's a North London derby. If there's any time for you to show who you are as a manager, the personality of your team, when the chips are down, and to get people back on your side, because I think he's starting to lose the fans in the stadium. And once you lose the fans in the stadium, it's over for you. The only way to show that you've got those kahunas is to go and win that game against Spurs, and then to go and win that game against Villa and get
that game. I'm sorry, I apologize. That game should not be in question. You should win that game fair and square, and it shouldn't change your perspective about the season. That is what Arsenal fans do. You want to tell me that if he wins this game, all the fans are back behind him? You should be winning against Spurs at home. That is a no-brainer.
We should be, but the problem is this, right? What is facing us right now is a stark reality. And the thing about people say about Arsenal fans is that we live in Delulu land. And then when we talk realistically of what we're seeing, we get told we're being negative.
Yeah, because you guys told us that this team is mighty and great. You guys told us that this team is fantastic and amazing.
Of course, but
we questioned this manager sometimes, and then nobody wanted to listen. Tom did it many times, and Arsenal fans. I remember you weren't on the show with us. Tom questioned Arteta in this show many times, and Arsenal fans called him names, bro. Because listen, the National League is not a banter show. We don't do banter show, right?
Was this at the start of the season, post last year? Because
yes. No, Tom criticized Arteta in the beginning of the season. And they literally went after him.
It's been pretty much every part of the show at some point in time I have criticised Arteta, because I just don't think that... I've had in my mind for a couple of years now, especially with the way last year went, that Arteta's the guy you want to build you, but he's not the guy you want to win for you, because he doesn't do that. You want him to build you a team, you want him to build you a structure and an identity, and then go give it to someone else who's actually got cojones to win. That's the way I've seen it with Arteta.
I as well. I literally, listen, I said I will take Arteta at Inter because I believe he's a very good coach. If Inzaghi leaves, and by the way, I stand by this. Arteta isn't a bad coach. The problem this season is that it looks like from day one this season, and I said this many times, I said you ended the season amazing last season, right? I was asking for a continuation of that magnificent form of last season. But the Arsenal fans told me, no, we need to restart the season as much as we started the season before. And I'm like, no, that is wrong. You need to have a continuation. You need to build on how you ended. It's only logical for you to win. If Arsenal continued their magnificent form of last season, you would have been with Liverpool now at the top. We would not have been sitting here talking about this. So this is why this season Arsenal did well in some games, but Arteta took the team back a little bit this season.
He also put the team where they were, Mo, as well. He put the team where they were, and he's the work Arteta's done in the previous 2 seasons. This is why I'm not sure whether or not he's the nearly man. He gets you close enough, and then you have to go and recruit someone else, because in any other league in world football, he would have 2 titles. He would probably have his team of winners by now, 3 seasons in. I think he done unbelievably well. It was just Pep Guardiola was in his way.
Let me answer something, Tom, before you go on. Let me answer something. How do you expect to continue that refreshing the attack? But the same attack last season were free-flowing at the end of the season, scoring goals. You were playing magnificent football. Why do people think always you need to refresh the attack? Sometimes you just don't. You go on. You actually improve players in the summer. Your same players. People think that Saka's gotten older. Havertz has gotten 1 more year under this manager. So Havertz this season, logically speaking, and I'm answering USE logically, Havertz this season, on paper, since he had more time now with the manager, should have been better, right or wrong? Like logically, they've had more time.
No, I think it proves that he was in a purple patch last season. I think everyone could see that he wasn't going to be their out-and-out 9. And I think that's why there was still Arsenal fans asking.
How about Trossard? Why did Trossard regress? Why did Trossard regress?
So there you go.
Okay, they got Mikel Merino from Real Sociedad, who should be a reinforcement to that midfield to give rest to Rice. Let me give you. Thomas Partey's fit all season. Timber is back. These are reinforcements, right? You got Calafiori. Lewis Kelly's coming to the fold. That's a new addition to the team. From the back line, from the fullbacks, an attacking fullback. Timber is here. So people tell me, Mo, how would you expect continuation? Because you literally reinforced the midfield and the defense. And Thomas Partey has been playing very well this season. So I'm expecting the team to play better.
But I think they tried to bring in 3 players, though. They tried to bring in a striker as well, and it didn't work out. And I think they probably set their budget to bring in a striker of Sesko's level, someone they believed probably wasn't going to start every single game, but could definitely compete for that spot. And I just don't think that worked out. And then they had to go back to the drawing board and find someone else. Yeah, I don't think Arsenal weren't going to break that. I think they were going to recruit 1 player in every position, because they brought in Neto as well as a goalkeeper on loan.
Yeah, but who we have not played a single time. So I mean, there you go. I mean, I guess it's just there, just in case. But if you go back to the question about why people say need to refresh the attack, right? So Martinelli's been off form for over a year now. We can see that in this competition. First out for me, since the Villa miss last year, he's also been in regression, right? And also, again, so the biggest sort of Mandela effect, sort of falsity ever created was that Trossard was this sort of clutch player who scores loads of goals. And people sort of liken him to Jota. And then I've just looked, just for the record, he's scored 22 games, almost 100 goals for Arsenal. But Brighton, he scored 25 goals in 4 years. He's not as prolific as what people think he is. So when people say they need to refresh the attack, right, it's because of this reality. Look at the planning. We brought in Sterling on transfer deadline day at a time when Edu said, we didn't plan for this at the start of the season, which tells you that this was a desperate situation. A point that Chelsea were happy to say, you know what, don't pay us anything and we'll pay his wages for you to take him off our books. No one off our books, just take him away from our situation. That tells you that what the reason. This is the reason why Arsenal fans now, with hindsight, remember, we're working with hindsight. None of us at the start of the season, when we finished with the most number of goals we scored and the highest points for so many years, could have said this will happen, right? Some people would have said it, but I think no one in the right mind would think, actually, even though we're second in the league, and right now we're still only technically 6 points behind Liverpool, that things look like it's about to fall apart at the seams. No one would have thought that at the start of the season. So We are working of hindsight, but at the same time, we can clearly see there was massive issues with planning for the squad building. But I'll always say this: Arteta and Arsenal fans, we cannot give an excuse for that because we signed off, and by we I mean the manager and the board and the recruitment team signed off on that team at the start of the season. If you signed off on that and you start that season with those players, you've got no excuse. It was your choice, and whether or not you couldn't bring players in, it's still your choice. So we just got to live with what we got right now.
Yeah, and listen, I don't know how Arsenal will go by this season, to be honest. The problem is this project needed this season to be at least better than this. The FA Cup maybe was a trophy that you could have won. The Carabao Cup, you could have done better in the league. I'm not sure if the league can be saved. Tom, do you think that the league form can be saved? Or without signing, by the way, because David Ornstein said that the signings, the Arsenal will not be as active.
I've been thinking about this for a week or so now. I think the maximum points Arsenal can get, all things considered, in the Premier League this season is about 82. Considering that Saka is not going to be available up until the back end of March, considering now Jesus is out injured, so they are running it quite thin in terms of forward line options, considering that that there's probably going to be one or two more problems with that squad. I don't see how Arsenal in the last 18 games put together a run to get to high-end 80s. I really don't. I mean, they've got 18 games. I don't know what that does points-wise, but if they were to win all 18, I think they get 54 points, which would only put them on 94. Now, that's if they won every single game. So that's if they went on the single greatest winning run in Premier League history. They're then on 94 points. They're not going to do that. I think that out of the last 18 games, if they're going for it, that they might do 82. That might be, 14 wins out of the last 18? Something like that, 13, 14 wins. Couple draws gassed in there, 84, 85 points. But that's if everything else went pretty much to plan. I don't think that's going to happen. I wouldn't be shocked if Arsenal got sub 80 this year. I wouldn't be shocked if Arsenal don't finish second. That's my big point. I wouldn't be shocked if Arsenal drop out of the top two. I think that Liverpool are in a spot now where they can kill this off in the next 2 months, injuries permitting, because of the state Arsenal squad's in and the state that City's league position is. Liverpool are in a position now where they can really sort of put this league in a chokehold and pretty much finish it off. And I don't think Arsenal are in a position where they can grab that back. I think
do you think City could finish above them, Tom?
I mean, how many points behind?
Yeah.
They're only 6 points behind.
Only 6 points
behind.
I think City will be applying pressure, not in the sense that they can go and win the league, but I think they'll be applying pressure to Liverpool just to keep you on your toes by the end of the season.
Yeah, they're 12 points behind us. We've got a game in hand. I could see them closing that gap a bit, but I don't see Liverpool dropping 13 points more.
No, I don't either. But just if that gap finishes off or is at one point within 9, I wouldn't be surprised because I think.
Well, I wouldn't be shocked if it's within 9 because that's only like one game's difference at this point.
Yeah,
so,
exactly right.
If it got to like 4 or 5 or 6, then there's a bit of a ooh. There you go. He's figured it out. The bigger worry there has to be Arsenal.
I was going to say, I'll give you this.
Nottingham Forest. I'm still scared of Forest.
Forget Forest. I'll give you this on the Man City thing. There's a big possibility by next week that Man City are on the same point to Arsenal, considering that we've got Spurs and Villa back to back. And I said this to Mo last week, where I said when we lost the games to Newcastle, my issue wasn't just losing the game and the trophy, right? Which is one thing that everyone can do the banter. It was the knock-on effect of the fact that we played a strong team of first-team players against Newcastle, lost that, and we're having to play United. Now, bearing in how the United games goes, kind of made me feel a little bit nervous about the next 2 games. The fact that we've lost this game against 10 men and gone to extra time, right? The confidence is probably right now in the pits of hell. We've lost Jesus as well. There's a possibility that the next 2 games against Spurs and Aston Villa realistically can put us on the same points back with Man City, which is absolutely insane. Is
there a world the guy gets sacked mid-season if he doesn't win these 2 games?
No, they won't sack him. I told you about KSC.
Fans in the stadium turn on him.
I've told you about this. I support the LA Rams. We had a coach for God knows 10 years who was finishing.
Forget the Kroenkes. The Kroenkes will sack him if the fans turn. Olo, if the fans turn, they will sack him.
The Rams fans wanted him out every year, and they just refused to sack the
English football is different.
It's the same thing. They will not. They're hard-headed. They're far away. They're in another country. They don't have to hear this. The only way that he gets sacked is if it's so bad and people don't turn up, and you affect the revenues to a point. But the Premier League is making so much money right now that they can take that loss and go, you know what? Next year we go again. That's the problem. Like, we have to, Arsenal fans have to be very, very sort of realistic about KSC and these guys. These guys will invest in a coach for as long as possible till it comes to a point where it's so bad. Then they'll make.
Do you think? Okay, so let me. So the question would be: does anybody here think Arsenal will be successful with Arteta?
I think that window is rapidly closing. And if he's to save it, he needs to do something this year. Because I think you've got to look at the teams around. I think Arsenal, but the one thing you're not supposed to do in football is stand still. And I think Arsenal stood still this year. And Liverpool have seemingly got the jump on them. I think Chelsea have closed that gap an awful lot. Still not fully closed. I still think Arsenal are better, but it's a lot closer than it was. I think that Man United are going to start closing that gap within the next year or two. I think that under Amorim, they've got a guy who can actually do something. City, that gap that was created by them being bad seems to now be closing up because they've figured it out. I think that if you get to next year, Arsenal needs to have an incredibly good window where they are ruthless and where they do everything correct and the players still buy into Arteta, or the window's gone. I think that next year, I think he'll get next year, and I think next year is the defining.
He will get. You think he will get next year as well if he doesn't? If he win trophy list,
I think he'll get next year. I think there's still a lot of. I think there's still a lot of Arsenal fans who back him because of what he's done to build them up, and I think that's.
Don't you think that is the problem, though? Don't you think that is the problem?
That's always the problem when you get to this point, because it comes down to loyalty and fan sentiment and stuff. Do I think Arteta's the guy who wins Arsenal the Premier League? I don't. Do I think if Simone and Inzaghi became available this summer, Arsenal should give Arteta his P45 and go get Inzaghi 100%? But do I think that's going to happen? No. So I think they're just going to stick with him. It's like that. It's what that's saying. Know what you've got rather than take the risk with what you don't have or the unknown. Arsenal know what they can get from Arteta, and it's a bit of stability. Do we think the Arsenal ownership wants to sacrifice that in pursuit of a trophy? I don't think they do.
But they aren't stable now. Like, for example, you guys keep saying they are a stable team.
They're not incredibly successful, but they're a stable team.
Exactly. I don't think they are that stable, though. Players are up and down. Martinelli's in question. Trossard's in question. Havertz in question. Like, even his signings, Moreno and Calafiori, that's not a stable team. That's a team with a lot of questions.
I know. I think the club is stable. So the only stability that sort of worries me, and I'm
talking about the team, not the club. I'm talking about the team, not the club.
Well, I'm just saying the only instability just from a club level that worries me is we lost our CEO and we've also lost our sporting director. So there is something happening at board level which doesn't seem 100% there. In terms of the team itself, I think, look, there's going to be a belief still in the manager that he will get it right. That's what they're going to do. They're going to say, well, listen, this is a tough period of time. Get through it. We know that you've got a team that finished second last season, so the quality is still there. Just get through this and see where you can get to, right? The problem is just more of the lack of investment will trouble the team. And then, in fact, the fact that he's now sort of saying without saying that, I love my players. And so these are the things that Pep was saying when Pep was going through a difficult time, which is funny. Again, he mirrors him so much.
Well, I need these losses. I need these losses.
When he says, I love my players, I love these guys, they give everything. That's literally last season, Pep was saying the exact same thing when City were going through a difficult patch. Even this season as well, I think he said that. But yeah, the instability for me comes if they don't invest in the fact that you're seeing a team that's breaking down from injuries and players having to do more than they need to, because there's just so many. And if you're not investing in that, that is when.
What can he do different without investments? Just imagine that Arsenal don't invest then. What can Arteta do different to turn out the season, to turn that around the season?
Stoke football, baby. Let's go back. Start of the season. Corner kick FC. Let's go.
Yeah, I think the only way you can turn it around now is to win games, and I think he has to be pragmatic. I think it might be some games where it's really boring football if he's trying to hold on to victories. I think he needs to allow his team to have a little bit more freedom. I just feel like sometimes they're too structured, and his wingers, I feel like they get isolated so much, when I feel like at times in the past 2 seasons before that, I'm not sure that was the case. I feel like Martinelli has almost been like restricted the longer he's been at Arsenal. I feel like that first year that he really thrived under Arteta, he had a bit more freedom. I think it's things like that just need to change. I almost feel like if he looked back at where his team was that first season and the freedom and how much he allowed that team to express itself, I think he'd look at it like a completely different side now. Maybe that's what he wanted, but I actually think they were better off in the first place in that first title challenge, where they fell off right near the end than they have been at all this season.
That's the problem, though. Arteta's damaged by that. He's damaged goods with that. He doesn't want that to happen again. So
yeah, which I think is how this season's come. Yeah, that's how this season come about. He was so concerned about the last 2 seasons repeating themselves that he's gone too far the other way. I think Rory actually said that, to be fair to him, about 6-7 weeks ago, and it's just sort of unveiled since then that's exactly what happened.
It's a real problem that Arsenal have, that they can't. When you go too far one way, like they have done with the defensive side of the football, when they need to go back out and expand and play, especially, I know that they've got some injuries, but when they need to go out and play and put teams under the cosh, they're not doing it as well, and that leaves them more exposed. To me, it felt like yesterday in that second half, they tried to play their older style of football under Arteta in that second half, but because certain players haven't played it, I know Jurgen Timber was signed last year, but he hadn't played that style of football because he'd done his ACL. What it led to was Arsenal looking open on counters, which they haven't looked a lot in recent years, but because it's a sort of splash of cold water to the system, it kind of shocked them a little bit, and that first goal comes from that. I don't think Arsenal of last year get caught in the counter the way they did yesterday. I don't.
So last year, one of my sort of running jokes was that we let teams have a shot on goal. Like, I used to count and say, oh no, we should forfeit the game when the team has 2 shots on target. That's how much we're choking the games away from teams. But this season, it just feels like you can have a pop at Arsenal, and it'll be a pretty good chance. But listen, I know we're meant to be pretty reasonable on this, but just bear with me on this one. Just walk with me, okay? I've got a good idea. How about we go and get the one manager, and Tom, you know this guy very well, the one guy who can coach a very good attacking team, but his defense is absolutely shocking, right? And pair him with Mikel Arteta. I'm talking about the guy right now who's over at Celtic, managing in the Scottish League.
You're not saying Brendan Rodgers.
Bring Brendan Rodgers and Arteta and pull them together. Best of both worlds, attacking plus defense.
Okay, you'd have 2 egomaniacs running your football club. That you'd have no players.
At this point, I'm desperate.
The last point I wanted to ask about Arteta, and guys, listen to Luke and hit that like button. We got over 400 people here. Also, all these guys' channels are in the description, including Rory and Nobbins, of course, who couldn't be here today. Tom and Dan channels in description. Hit that like button, people, and listen to Luke. Let's get to 200 likes live, guys. Hit that like button. Not a lot of you are pissed. That is the question, Drona. Arteta knows if he doesn't win anything now, he is screwed. People will be asking for his head, as they should. Does anybody think that Arteta feels under pressure at all?
He better do.
Yeah.
I think he can feel a little bit the pressure, and I think that's why some of the decisions he's making seem a little bit, because it's what managers under pressure do.
I think that's how this season come about. I think he did feel the pressure. I think he thought that this season he had to win.
I think he thought last year he had to win, and he didn't.
Yes, true.
And now he's sort of chasing it.
I want any manager that manages Arsenal to always feel under pressure to win, because that's the only way you continue to progress as a club. Once under Wenger, we had no pressure to win. 4th place became a trophy, and we ended up in purgatory, right? So I want him to under pressure. I want him that today he feels that the next game against Tottenham is the most important game, and then the game after that against Villa is the most important game, and so on and so forth, right? So he is under pressure. If it's just for me alone, and I know that might mean nothing to him, because he doesn't know who the hell I am, but he has to be under pressure, and so does every single player, and so does every single member of staff, and so does even the physio, and so on and so forth. They've got to feel the pressure to win, so they get the best out of the players. If not, we're just Spurs.
I'm just gonna say one thing. The only big club apart from Spurs that a manager can stay that long and doesn't feel any pressure after back-to-back title challenges is Arsenal. And the fans are behind him. It's the only club. There's no other club without a credit in the bank. Jurgen Klopp was under pressure when he was 5th or 6th. He was under pressure. And even though Jurgen Klopp had credit in the bank, Arteta doesn't have enough credit in the bank. The problem is
some mad bastards were saying Jurgen Klopp should get sacked or something. I don't know.
Someone.
Dortmund will be one team, if I can remember. I think Arsenal.
I'm talking about a big club. Nobody, including Milan, Juventus, Inter.
Arsenal are the Dortmund of the Premier League. When you look at it, we are the Dortmund of the Premier League. We make it to finals in the Champions League, we didn't win it.
Even
every now and then we win a league title. But the reality is that we just.
Hey, how many Champions League finals have you been to?
Just one.
I think they've been to 2.
Dortmund have actually won one as well. So I think that's actually quite offensive to Borussia Dortmund.
Actually, Dortmund have been to
3,
4, 1-1 and lost 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So there we go. So actually, you're worse than
insult on Dortmund.
You're worse than Dortmund.
Yeah, but Dortmund
always putting yourself on Dortmund's level.
Dortmund always bottle the league when they've got a chance to win this. That's what I'm saying.
They have won it.
But you know what? 25% success rate is better than 0% success rate.
That's true.
You have the same Champions League finals as Spurs.
You would effectively buy. You know they are. You're effectively Leverkusen.
Just put that out there, right?
No, we're not Leverkusen because.
Let's put that out there. You and Spurs have the same finals.
Don't ever put us in the same league as Spurs, though. Spurs are in their own.
You're not. They are better than you in Europe.
I mean, I think we said this. I think we discussed this on Friday, though. Arsenal as a football club aren't in the same league as Spurs, but this Arteta team is pretty much just a red version of the Pochettino team.
No, it's not. That's not true.
Why is it not?
Why? Why is not?
Because I never want my team to be in any conversation with Spurs. Pick anything. Pick Portsmouth.
But you are.
Pick Accrington Stanley. Call us Accrington Stanley. Just don't call us Spurs.
but you are in that conversation.
As a club, you aren't comparable. 13 league titles. Spurs have multiple cups. Spurs don't have that much. You have multiple amazing players throughout the history. Yes, right. But this team, as Tom says, if it ends up being trophyless, it's the same as Spurs. No, without the Champions League final, without the Champions League final,
we're Bradford. We're Bradford. We are Coventry City.
Didn't Bradford beat you once?
Yep. We're all the other teams. We're just not Tottenham. I never want my team's name, and Tottenham to be in the same sentence.
Spot on. That's a spot on comment. Teams forget that they are big. I'm being serious. Teams forget and fans forget. Turkish said it yesterday after the game. He said there's a lot of new fans that are happy where we are because they don't know what it is to win the major trophies. People forget.
He called them customers, didn't he?
Yes, he called them customers, not fans.
I disagree.
People forget that, oh my God, we once were a team that always challenged for the league, always had world-class players. We're always trying to win the league, and we were never happy losing. Never.
I disagree. So the reason why I disagree is this: is one, the biggest thing that people say about Arsenal fans is that is the delusion, right? So Arsenal fans actually do believe we're the best team in the world. So it's not a case of we don't think that. I don't think the fans have forgotten how to be a big team. In fact, we've got delusions of grandeur, right? Look at Igal talking about, he'll take more players in our team than Real Madrid. So you can't tell me that we don't think we're a big team. The problem is just that I think we are in what was the pre-Wenger years again. The only difference is that we're doing better than when we were there. And I'm saying as an older person who remembers Bruce Rioch and so on and so forth, right? But I think Arsenal fans probably have too much chest, if anything, more than anyone else. And I think most people here would agree that. And that's why Arsenal tend to get bantered the most when we lose. Right or wrong?
Maybe. I don't think you get bantered the most, actually. I actually think this is...
I don't know. I've seen Chelsea and Man United and Tottenham creators who have made videos about Arsenal losing yesterday. And if another big team loses later on this season, I don't think they'll do the same thing.
But that is because you are...
Spurs get bantered the most. Spurs, I feel like they're always the butt of the joke.
Yeah, but that's just because that's who they are.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
I think Arsenal, I think you're actually right, Ola, in the sense that you give it so much chest as a fan base with not much to back it up in recent years, that the fall off and the absolute head loss is always like exceptional content to see. I think that's like what happens in this social media world.
Yeah.
I want to move on from Arsenal and just go to Chelsea and the Viega news and all the stuff and all what is going on with Chelsea at the current moment. Chukwuemeka, they have the door open for him. They have the door open for Renato Viega to go. What is your opinion about this? 6 months at the club, handful of games. He was spoken about to be a good left back or a good inverting left back for Chelsea, and now he is leaving, apparently.
Yeah, I don't blame him if he wants to play in a certain position and his game time's limited there. This is why I said that these conversations don't happen. And I've got a lot of rebuttal against this over the last few weeks after I said it. But these conversations do not happen when players come to football clubs. Otherwise, that we wouldn't be at this stage 6 months down the line. We just wouldn't. The recruitment, it doesn't look great from Chelsea's recruitment side of things, and it doesn't look great from the players' side of things because those conversations don't happen. They can't ever give a player a guarantee. They tell him to come in and he'll challenge in an area of the squad where he wants to play. But ultimately, if the manager decides he's not going to play there, he's not going to play there. And they're backing the manager. And I think Viega come in and look really good. But the last few weeks, I think we've seen a decline. And Maresca also said he was out of the team for the same reason as Madueke, which would suggest something's happened at training that he's not too happy with, hasn't been applying himself well enough, probably in Maresca's eyes. And I think I'm starting to wonder whether or not the player's sort of gone behind Chelsea's back here and worked a move with his agent. And now Chelsea are like, we're not going to loan you. We just want to sell you, because that's the rumours today.
They want to sell him only. They don't want to loan him.
That's why I'm starting to wonder whether or not the player's sort of gone on his own accord and tried to work this transfer, and they're not very happy with it. To be honest, if we make money on him in 6 months, I think that'd be unbelievable, because I don't know if he's done enough to make himself worth more than 14 million. I think that's what we got him for from Basel. I've got no hatred towards the guy. I just think it'll be a transfer that just hasn't worked out. I think it's another question mark around the recruitment of the sporting directors, because it's someone that's been brought in and we've got to go and spend more money again. But if they turn it into quick profit, maybe that's what the players that aren't good enough to be starting every single week are going to be at the club for. That's their purpose.
I agree. I was going to say, so I always believed that America's biggest challenge was dealing with the egos, right? You're bringing so many players, you bring in players who believe they can start. Maybe Viega, you could argue you should have thought he should be a starter, but players have those egos. But having those many players and having such big investments, you're probably seeing the same thing with Nkuku and Felix right now. Maybe Felix less so, because there's no news coming out about him. That him having to manage those egos and giving enough people game time to feel that they can get part of it was going to be a problem, right? And this idea of A team, B team that some Chelsea fans were saying, it just shows how much of a falsity it is. There's no such thing as a B team. There's a squad, and you got your reserves / substitutes, and every now and then those guys will think, I should be playing, and we'll kick off a fuss about it. And I think we're seeing that in real time, and it just also proves why the strategy that Chelsea have taken, which I'm not saying is failing or failed, but the strategy Chelsea have taken is something that many teams in Europe do not do for this exact reason. It's not a NFL team. It's not a basketball team.
Is that a sustainable model, though? Chelsea buying players and they don't work, so you sell them?
Not really, I don't think. We said it a few weeks ago, didn't we? I think a lot of people weren't really sure, and they said it could definitely be sustainable in the chat. But I think me and Rory are quite adamant that by the time Chelsea get to the Champions League, there will not only be one player who's unhappy with his game time, and we're not even there yet. As soon as the Conference League has stopped, we have seen like 4 or 5 players be linked with moves away because they're now not getting the game time they were getting 2 months ago when the Conference League was allowing for rotation. It's just going to happen. Olu's spot on. Clubs don't do it this way because it doesn't work. Even with Pep, when he was doing his Pep roulette and you never knew who was going to play, eventually he's gone away from that model because it didn't work, and he's reduced the squad size down to a squad so small now that it's actually hurt him. But it just doesn't work in football. It's not the type. All right, we're playing more games than we ever have, so maybe there's an argument to have a slightly bigger squad. But you've got a guy who's coming from Basel, and already he's not happy with his game time. The kid costs 40 million. There's players in Chelsea's squad that he costs 10% of, and they don't get every game and every single week, right? Enzo Fernandez has spent time being rotated in and out of the team. So I just don't think it's a sustainable model. But I do think every now and then, if Chelsea can have an opportunistic player come into the squad, play for 6 months, a season, move him on for profit, I think it'll be okay. But don't forget, Dewsbury Hall's in the same boat after 6 months as well. He costs 30 million. We're not getting profit out of him. So there's a lot of mess in this recruitment at the same time.
Also add to that, sorry, Tom, before you go, you still got the likes of Kendrick Pyers. You got the Santos guy over in Strasbourg, right? You've got, who's the other one? The other guy, Esteval, another one who, again, plays in the same position as what Palmer is, I believe. So you've then got all these players. You got Wonder Kid coming in. You've got established guy Nkunku, who's now obviously is going to leave. You got João Felix as well, who at one point was touted as a generational player, all occupying the same position. It's easy when in American football or in basketball when you're stocking up draft picks, basically players you can flip for a better position in your draft position, right? Or in baseball, in football, where you pay for those players and you've got paid those wages and you can't just get rid of them that easily because someone's got to want to buy them. It's a little bit more difficult. And this is where my sort of criticism at the start of what Chelsea were doing was, especially with the managing of the egos, you cannot buy all these players who are this at a good level or should be at a good level and then keep them happy. It just does not work in football. It's a flaw.
And also that is a very unstable team for Maresca to coach. Like he's working with 2 fullbacks at the current moment, Viega and Cucurella. Now he'll have to find another guy to fill in the position in case Cucurella is getting injured, in case he needs to rest Cucurella.
This is the thing, that this model doesn't work because managers will play players that they trust, and these players are only going to get opportunities should Cucurella not be available. Cucurella's only missed 1 game this season through suspension. So like these opportunities aren't going to present themselves. This is why the model doesn't work. This is where the flaws in the model arise. I think that you'll see Chelsea. I think Chelsea are going to realise this, but I don't think they've realised it just yet. I mean, I saw that they're getting rid of Chukwuemeka as well on a loan, but with no option to buy. I feel like that's one of the ones where you need to put an option to buy in because he's clearly not in the plans. What's the point in just sending him out for 6 months? Like that those to me just confuse me. I feel like the model has surprised me because I didn't think it would. It's not failed. It's just not worked at an optimum level. That's the way I'd say it.
But in what you mean in a footballing term, Tom, don't you? But I think in terms of
business-wise, it's probably very successful.
Well, this is where I think the discussion needs to be had because I'm not sure if it is because players like Chukwuemeka cost a lot of money, and I think the reason there's no option to buy yet is because no one's going to put an option to buy him for 40 million when no one knows if he's actually ever going to be worth that because they already paid over 20. They paid over 20 for Kellerman in the summer, a kid who's not even got near the first team. They paid 30 million for Dewsbury Hall. That's a player they've lost money on. If they go and make 15 million on Viega, they probably don't even break even with the losses they've had on all these other players they've recruited in. I just think it's an absolute mess.
And the wages as well, bonuses you've paid for those players, so on and so forth. Like it's more than just a transfer fee, right? So yeah, it just doesn't make sense. And the thing, I think what some Chelsea fans probably got blinded by was what happened with the Saudi league coming in and buying so many players, which was no one expected, right? If that never came in, like the 2 seasons ago, how much of a more of a mess Chelsea have been in with the likes of Koulibaly and Aubameyang, players who would not just move in. I mean, essentially, the Saudi League gave a route to get as much money back as possible for those players.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't exist anymore, if that tap disappears, this is the season no one comes in and pays those big amounts of money, you've got a problem where you now have all these players. You've amortized, which means you still have to pay the fee in the future, and then all of a sudden it's like a house of cards. It's like a house of cards which will fall eventually. So the only hope Chelsea can have right now is teams with big wads of cash come in and start taking these players for higher than they've bought them. And let's be real, there's not many.
We always talk about the money, and I look at it still from the footballing perspective. Always. When is Chelsea gonna have a stable team that work with a manager for a long time? When imagine if that happens with Gui, for example, and just it's Chelsea. Nkunku now wants to go.
It probably will, Mo. It probably will happen. I think someone like Mark Gui is probably like 18, 19 years old. His expectations are probably being managed right now. Maybe they're a little bit off, but it's probably closer than some. But players like Nkunku, his expectations aren't being managed. He's being played out of position. He's not playing where he wants to play. He's got a World Cup on the horizon that he wants to play in. Those players.
If Madueke doesn't play the same situation,
I think what happens is you'll probably get a group of about 11 to 15 players that are deemed good enough and happy with their roles in the squad. And I think other than that, like it will be extremely volatile at Chelsea because players like Enzo.
But that is not helping the manager. Then
of course it isn't. Of course it isn't. But these guys, I'm not sure where the conversations are coming from, whether or not they care about that. I don't know. I don't see it. They'd rather focus on.
They must care about the position in the league and how stable the team is. They must want the team to play good football and just
I've seen no evidence of that since they've taken over. I'm sure they do, but I've seen no evidence of it. I've seen more of a focus on being successful in terms of attempting to make money than I've seen attempting to have success on a football pitch. So until I see that, I don't think you can make that judgment because I just don't. And I'm not saying they don't because I think that would be unfair because they spent a lot of money. And I'm sure by spending that amount of money, they do want some sort of success on the football pitch. But I'm yet to see it yet. I think if you wanted success, 99% of teams would go about it a slightly different way if they were going to put $1 billion and a half into a squad, and recruitment would look a lot different. Managerial appointments would look a lot different. The way the club is run on the day-to-day would look a lot different. But at the same time, at one point this season, we did start to see that this squad that's been assembled is actually one of some very, very capable players. So I think it's just going to be something with time that 5 years down the line, we're going to be aware of how this board have decided to run the club and where it's going.
One of the things about Chelsea, before we take it to Liverpool just to end the show, is the Mark Gay situation where Chelsea literally said Mark Gay's salary is too high for our wage structure. If Chelsea want to take it to the next level, they will need to pay higher wages than this. This is how you get the player that will win you the trophies at the end. Because now you have built a team, you have built a very good team that have young players, inexperienced. If you're going to go and get a 25 or a 24 or a 26 years old player, they're not going to come in for 100K if they are a difference maker. If they believe in themselves, they are a difference maker. And I'm not saying Gay he is, but someone who's experienced, you're not going to leave their club to come to Chelsea to be within the wage structure. Chelsea has at some point to break that wage structure.
I completely get what you're saying. And I think, like I said, 99% of clubs would understand that. Chelsea are obviously
like what Arsenal did for Havertz, right?
Yeah,
like
Chelsea are doing, and this is the thing, right? I think Chelsea is scared by deals like Havertz, deals like Sterling, deals like Koulibaly. I think these new, fresh owners to football are scared that can. Lukaku was obviously on the books as well. It didn't work out on huge money. There's a number of players. Chukwuemeka is on unbelievable money compared to the rest of the squad. I look at it and I think I'm not sure that is going to change. And I think if a player gets to the point where they don't want to, like Chelsea aren't going to pay him any more money, someone like Cole Palmer is probably right on the verge of being like looking around thinking, hang on, I'm this good. and these players that are comparable to me earn this much money.
250 for Foden.
Exactly right.
And 300 plus for others.
We're talking about a player that, with those numbers, could go to his club and ask for 300 grand because Trent's doing it, right? So Palmer's probably 2 seasons off, probably being extremely unhappy at Chelsea in terms of his pay. At what point did Chelsea go, yeah, all right, we'll sell you then? Because they're going to make so much profit on Palmer to sell him, and he's on a 9-year deal. Like, I just think no player is safe at Chelsea under this current model because of they're not willing to increase the wages.
Yeah, and also as well, another thing that, not to bore people, another thing is that in relation to PSR, I think Chelsea's wage bill is still ridiculously high to the revenues that they make, right? So that's why they've got this strict wage. So when you had Roman was able to bankroll any losses because for him it was a personal thing. He invested his money into Chelsea, so he was happy to take those losses, knowing that he can offset it with his own business. Clearly, like an investment business, they've got a portfolio of other companies and shareholders and so on and so forth. There's only so much losses they can incur without essentially that being a problem. So the only way to do it is to have these strict wages. But like we've said, when you've got world-class players or potentially world-class players that you want to buy or within the team, they will command more money. Same way Salah's looking for more money or looking for comparatively more money at Liverpool, right? And Liverpool fans would say, pay Salah. I don't know if Tom still feels that, but pay Salah what he's worth, or Van Dijk what he's worth, or so on and so forth. Same thing with Arsenal. We would say, pay Saka 300 grand if he keeps performing. If Chelsea are so strict in the fact that to make this business model work, we have to keep people on low enough wages, it will eventually be a problem.
And also, Olu, just to add to that as well, do people seriously think that these other clubs don't pay bonuses and these players aren't incentivized at other, like there's people in the chat telling me, oh no, it's okay because Palmer's wages incentivized. Are you telling me that Salah doesn't have incentives? Saka doesn't have incentives? Foden doesn't have incentives? Are you winding me up? Come on.
Look, okay, for people who don't know, there was a time when John Anari's paycheck was essentially leaked. And it shows he had a Champions League appearance bonus. The different bonuses. Every single player in the history of football has a bonus and a clause in your contract for appearances, for goals, for even bloody them playing a Champions League game. Don't get fooled that he's just getting paid off the back end. If another team says we're going to give you more money and more bonuses, Palmer, who has got no sort of like childhood sort of there's nothing like he's not a childhood Chelsea fan.
We can speak about that then, if Mo, if you want to bring that up, we can speak about it.
They will go.
I'm gonna respond to you, Celis. Very simple. Reece James is the exception because he's injured. Reece James, if he's fit, 250k is good for him. This is why Trent is asking for that much money. Exceptional right backs or exceptional players always ask for exceptional contracts. That's just how football works. This is why
he's also the captain.
Yeah, this is why clubs struggle with wages. This is why Liverpool haven't signed Salah until this moment because he's asking for high wage. This is why Trent hasn't signed.
When did Reece James sign his contract?
Right at the beginning of Clearlake coming in, when Todd Bowley was sporting director.
Exactly, and
where people need to understand that Egbali is now running the show with the 2 sporting directors. Todd Bowley obviously brought in Christophe Vivell. He's moved on now. Todd Bowley's taken a step back. That's been discussed publicly. We saw it a few international breaks ago. Egbali is the one who is focused on running this club in a similar way to Brighton. The quotes are literally out there that he believes that's a sustainable model to being competitive and producing financial gains. And that is how this club is now being run. Most likely, that's what we're seeing happen right in front of our eyes this January. Players like Reece James, people think Reece is safe. If a bid comes in for Reece James this January, he'd be gone like that. The fact of the matter is, his injuries have basically scared any other team off. Because I can tell you right now, if Reece James had been playing this whole time up until this window, Real Madrid wouldn't be talking to Trent Alexander-Arnold. They'd be talking to Reece James. And it would be as simple as that.
Ooh.
Honestly, Tom, what is it? 7 assists in his last 74 games. I think Reece James has got that easily in his last 74.
But I agree. And that's why I asked the question about when he did it. So when he signed his contract was when you were again bringing in the Koulibalys, the Aubameyangs. They were on 300k, 350, 200, so on and so forth. Since they've moved away from that quote unquote way of doing business, they've now instilled a structure. You're seeing less and less players on those higher wages. So you might say Felix comes at 170k. I promise you, if this was 2 years ago, Felix would have been on 350.
But when you had him on loan, what were you paying him?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So
exactly right.
So don't.
But the thing is, Ollie, they're going to have. I think this is the issue that Chelsea have right now, where if anyone says that it's not the right way to do things, they'll turn around and say, "Look, we signed 8 players: Wesley Fofana, Koulibaly, Aubameyang, Sterling, Kukurea, Chukwuemeka, and there's one more, and it's escaped me. Maybe like Nkunku. All these players on massive wages, big transfer fees. How many of them have actually turned out to be a success at Chelsea? Minimal. The real reason they weren't a success, by the way, isn't the money they came in for. It's the fact that they weren't profiled correctly to a squad, and no one knew who the manager was going to be, and no one knew how this club was going to work going forward with new owners. But they will turn around and say, we spent the money on these players. It didn't work. Now we're going to go to these younger players who can develop. Chances are they'll go, we pay less money for Casado on wages. We pay less money for Enzo on wages. We pay less money for Cole Palmer, for players like Malo Gusto. And they'll turn around and say, less money spent, better level of player on the pitch, because the players are younger and hungrier. But I'm not sure that is exactly true, but that is how they'll answer those questions that are being put to them right now. That's exactly what they'll do.
I think it's interesting on with Chelsea.
We'll see how it goes.
I think we can't. I don't think you can analyze Chelsea. You need to look at them in a year or two time, because
we'll see how it goes. Especially tomorrow against Bournemouth. I think it's a massive game for them, to be honest.
Are you away tomorrow?
No, at home. But
bigger game
Bournemouth
for
are
Chelsea
very
or
tough
bigger
game.
game for Maresca? Because obviously Premier League form's pretty
It's a
poor at the
massive
moment.
game for Maresca.
Yeah.
Massive game for Enzo Maresca tomorrow. Massive.
Chelsea will win it.
We'll see. This is the last 2 minutes for Tom about Nottingham Forest tomorrow. With how confident are you going to the game tomorrow?
Not at
At
all.
home. Away. Sam is so confident, bro. You're away, sir. Sam is so confident, bro.
Nottingham Forest terrify me.
Why?
They're second in the fucking league. Let's not act like they're some bum team.
The third. Please give us a second.
The second.
The third.
And they're a serious outfit. They're a serious outfit. They're on the best run of form in Premier League history. They've won 6 games in a row.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have. They had the best form in December or festive period.
Like
Then Newcastle, I think.
I'm not sitting here looking at Nottingham Forest as some bum team. They're the only team to beat us in the league this season. Do
you think their style just absolutely clashes with you, Tom, as well?
If they played all 5 midfielders again, yes, because they just pack the midfield out, and then our players can't do anything. The only thing that we might have going for us is that being at home, the impetus might be on them to come and attack us and try and take the game to us a little bit more, which means that Elanga and
with a 6-game winning streak, absolutely not. They would take a point and run with it.
Again, that could happen. I'm just thinking that being at home, they might play one of the wingers, especially with the form that they're in. If they play one of the wingers, yes, they become more of an attacking threat, but it also gives us more space to operate in. They killed us at Anfield because we had no space. If they give us space to operate in, and I think we can cause problems. If they play the same way they did at Anfield, whilst I don't think we lose, I think we draw. And they're a serious outfit. I'm not underestimating Nottingham Forest here. They're a proper outfit. They've got a good number 9 up top, and Chris Wood, who's in probably the form of his life. They've got a really solid defence with the best goalkeeper in the league statistically this season in Matt Sells. And they've got
if Forest get a result tomorrow, do we think we have to consider them one of the with a good shout for top 4?
Yes, already have to. I think the form they put up. If any team puts that kind of form up until now, they're in the discussion for a Champions League place. And I think the fact that they did that the way they manage those festive periods means that they're in the discussion. Because look at teams that were in the discussion for a title race; they only managed to pick up like 2 points in Chelsea. Teams like Manchester City picked up 7. Forest picked up what? 15, 12?
Yep.
Yeah.
15.
Unbelievable form. And Forest have had 4 losses this season, 2 at home against Fulham and Newcastle. So and arguably the win they had against Liverpool is arguably an anomaly in a way, because they've lost to better teams. They've lost to like bigger sides this season. They've lost to Newcastle, lost to Arsenal, lost to City and Fulham. So arguably that Liverpool one is a little bit of an anomaly, and Liverpool might actually be okay going into this game.
I'll put it this way, Mo. Nottingham Forest are unbeaten. It's not unbeaten. That actually does it a disservice. Nottingham Forest have won every single game for over a month.
Yeah.
In the most hectic period of the season, they've won every single game. These are a good outfit. These are a solid outfit. They've got a good manager in Nuno, who, when he gets players on board with his philosophy, they can be as hard a team to beat as any in the league. And they've got players who are high on confidence at the minute. I'm not looking at this like it's an easy job tomorrow. I think if we win, it makes it even bigger for us. If we beat Nottingham Forest, you get revenge for the game early this season, and it has inklings and murmurings of that Leicester City game the year we won the league, where Leicester City was second and they were high flying, and then we beat them.
If you don't get a result, does that open the door for Arsenal in the league again?
Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm ready to say. I said it before. I said I was ready to get hurt again. I'm not ready to get hurt again. I'm broken.
I'll put it this way.
I need a slither of hope.
Tom, you're so confident about Arsenal not being there. You're more worried about City and other teams. It's unbelievable.
No, because I'm trying to find this. If Arsenal get 80 points in the league to finish the season, if Arsenal finish the league season on 80 points, so they match their form from the first half of the season to the second half of the season, they finish on 80 points. Do you know the record Liverpool could have and still win the Premier League?
Yep.
10 wins, 5 draws, 5 losses. Get you 81 points for Liverpool.
Yeah, but what Arsenal can
if Arsenal drop 14 points, Liverpool only need to win half their remaining games to win the Premier League title.
Yeah.
That's why I'm sitting there going, "Oh, I'm not worried yet about it," because we're in such a strong position.
I think this midweek might change a lot of people's opinions especially about Chelsea and Arsenal and City, to be honest. City play Brentford away. I guarantee you, if City win that game, City now will get their mojo back, and they will just, oh my God, now we can go on a run.
Mo, have you looked at City's fixtures? I think within 3 games, they are playing Chelsea, and I think at the Etihad, and I think by the time they get to that fixture, I genuinely think they'll be back cemented in the top 4.
If they win against Brentford and Ipswich and they go to PSG away,
they lose those today. I feel like they've turned a corner. A few weeks ago, I would have been like they lose it, but there's no way Pep's losing to a Graham Potter side. Wait, did you say West Ham?
No, they play Ipswich.
Sorry.
I mean,
Ipswich. He's not
Ipswich.
losing to a Kieran McKenna side. Come on.
They will batter Ipswich. Listen, with the fun we had with Man City, I think it's pretty much over. Bringing new players as well.
I don't think it's over. I'll be honest. I don't think it's over. I think we're looking at them. I don't think they were good against Leicester, and I don't think they were great against West Ham. And yes, they battered Salford 8-0. Woo! But that's it.
Was nice.
Outside of that, like they're
great. It's great for confidence, isn't it? Like Jack Grealish obviously got a goal from open play.
They gave him the most pity penalty you've ever seen.
I agree. But it's great for confidence, isn't it? It's 3 wins on the bounce. There's a lot of goals scored. Pep's always going to do that, isn't he? It was against West Ham, wasn't it, where he said he didn't think they played well. But realistically, I think a lot of teams can say that against West Ham, because West Ham have been woeful under Lopetegui and co this season.
I think. Look. Manchester City's next 5 league games: Brentford away, Ipswich away, Chelsea at home, Arsenal away, Newcastle at home. And then if you want to go to 6, they've got us at home. These next 6 games will show me a lot. I don't think they've turned that corner yet. I need to see it against proper opposition and not a Julian Lopetegui side.
I don't know. I just don't ever doubt Pep. That's my thing. Since 2 years ago, I don't doubt Pep, and I think he finds.
I don't think I'm doubting Pep. I'm just doubting the players. Because even if you look at what the signings that they're making, none of them seem to address what most people think the problem is. They're still shit in midfield.
That's true, but the thing is though, they are getting rid of Kyle Walker. I know he decided he wanted to move on, right? But I'll guess that
no, right. He's decided to move on because he didn't want to be pushed out the door. He wanted to be on his own. He wanted to be on his own terms.
Is that the consensus we're taking? Yeah, it's not like he doesn't. He knows something else.
He knows that he wasn't lasting this summer, right? So he wanted to go out beforehand.
No, I agree, but I just think that sort of moving sometimes to get a situation back on track, you want to get rid of just people. It's not always adding in. Sometimes get rid of people. As an Arsenal fan, I know that when
we'll see what happens with City. To be honest, I'm not worried. If I'm a Liverpool fan, I'm not worried about City at all for the title. But Arsenal, Chelsea, and everyone, they should be worried. To be honest,
no, we're just chilled. What's the thing kids are saying this day? We're just a chill guy.
We'll see how it goes.
Is that a new thing? We'll
see how it goes. But listen, people,
sorry, Mo. I was just going to quickly say, top four teams need to be worried about Newcastle as well, because like the form Newcastle is unbelievable.
100%, without a shadow of a doubt. Because I think Newcastle, if they touch this top four, they will stay there. They won't leave.
Yeah,
like what they did 2 years ago. They won't leave.
Newcastle are in the ideal spot to be in for a team like Newcastle. They've got no European football to worry about. And they are a team that is riding high on confidence with dangerous attackers and a solid defence. And for me, probably the best midfield starting in the league.
Yeah, I think their midfield's
Tonali, Guimaraes, and Joe Linton, that's the best.
Especially for their style of play. Like, it's incredibly dynamic and they can transition with incredible
There's
pace.
no worse midfield to play in the league than bloody Newcastle's at St James's Park. They just batter you.
Did you, random fact, but some of you probably know this, but St James's Park is like on a slope. So like, it's also an uphill battle as well for half the game.
Yeah.
I just think that if Newcastle, because even if we're considering, like, I know they've got to play us away. I don't know if they've got to play Arsenal away.
They've got to play Arsenal. We've got something for them.
Oh yeah, like that in the Carabao Cup. Oh, not the Emirates. Oh,
actually, no. Actually, you know what? I said it was an awful game from Arsenal. I went back and just looked at the Arsenal game. We weren't as bad as I thought we were. We just are shit at scoring goals, basically. So
that's why a striker, Osimhen, Eucharist. We'll see how it goes. But listen, I want to thank everyone that joined us. Tom's channel in the description. People go and subscribe to Tom, of course. Dan's channel doing fantastic work. And also on Instagram as well. Fantastic reels, as always, from Dan. Rory channel in the description. Nobbins channel in the description. I might see you guys later today, or I might see you tomorrow, or maybe after the games tomorrow. I want to thank everyone that stuck by us. Appreciate you guys. I will see you guys soon. We are out of here, people.